So let's pick up on that conversation. We are joined by political analyst, Professor Sipho Siepe, who's been watching all of this. Prof, good evening, and thank you for your time. Did you see this one coming? Out,
No.
former Vice President, Deputy President John Hlophe, in comes Duduzane Zuma as first Deputy President. Did you see it coming?
Well, I didn't see it coming, and it seems to me, for lack of better word, a form of a circus. I think it is very embarrassing for the party because we've seen a number of changes, and these changes follows the same logic that it's about positioning the party strategically. It's about creating alignment. It's about deploying people according to what they are capable of. And when this is repeated many times, it becomes embarrassing. But what's also embarrassing is when you start looking at the content of the restructuring. To take somebody like Hlophe and you replace that with your son, it doesn't matter who sat on the table and who agreed. The optics look very bad. So effectively, what the MK party is beginning to show is the wisdom of having an elective conference. Yes, one may accept that most of these conferences may be bought, but what the conferences do, they create a form of stability where you cannot move from 1 minute to the next minute and change people. What we have now is no longer even something that can be defended.
Sure.
And I do think that there comes a time when the party must ask itself whether it wants to exist. And it's not unusual for people to start a very good party, but they also be at the center of destroying that party. And this is what is beginning to emerge from MKP.
Those are really strong sentiments and thoughts that you have there, Prof. And I know you that if there was any benefit of the doubt to be given, you probably would give it in this instance. But doesn't it come down to the powers that are given to the president of the party in the Constitution? Because the party constantly reminds us that the president is empowered to make these decisions. And the relevant clause being clause 16.1, and particularly paragraph F and paragraph G. If I may read very quickly paragraph F, which says, the president shall have the power to issue presidential decrees on any matter pertaining to the operation, administration, and policy direction of the party in the interest of the party, which shall be binding on all levels of the party.
Well, the developments in the party right now are indicative of how flawed those clauses are. You must not treat the Constitution as documents that come from on high. These are documents that have been crafted by people with a certain political agenda, with a certain political interest. So when you start having absence of dispersal of power, when power gets concentrated on one person, you should know that people are likely to err, because to err is human. So it becomes very important, and the history has shown that dispersal of power has always been an instrument or mechanism that provides a certain form of stability. Now, the people in the MK must actually ask themselves, what guarantee do you have that next week there'll be no other changes? And if you are going to invite professionals, and then professionals are treated this way, or are seen to be disregarded, or are seen to be embarrassed, then you are actually sending a wrong message, not only to the rest of the members of MKP, but also to the rest of the voters. Voters do want a form of stability. Yes, you can explain yourself about electoral processes being flawed. You can explain yourself about the fact that there must be a center that holds. But one must also know that power tends to be very destructive to the people who hold it. And in this case, even though one may not talk about power corrupting, but what it shows is that it is very dangerous to give one person so much power.
Two dynamics I'd like you to talk to before you and I part ways in this conversation. The John Hlophe dynamic. He is now removed after just returning a couple of months ago having been suspended from, that position of leadership in the MK party. He returns and is now removed as first deputy president. Then the second dynamic, the Duduzane Zuma dynamic. What does he bring to the leadership of the party? So if you may, very briefly talk to both of those dynamics.
Well, there's something about age and wisdom. Hlophe brings a lot of wisdom. He may not have been a political activist in a normal sense or the usual sense, but you cannot take somebody who used to be a judge president and you replace that person with your son. Yes, Duduzane may be a nice person, but you have a sense and a narrative that says the MK party is simply a family stock firm. And you need to, politically, to be able to say that is not true. But when you start seeing these things emerging, you give gravitas to that narrative. But it becomes very unfortunate when you have a professional like Hlophe, a person with a great wisdom, a person who feels that he has been undone by the system. And he goes to a party and then he finds himself being kicked in the teeth by the same party. So I don't think those will go well with many people, even those who are not members of the MK party. They are actually sympathetic to what is happening to former Judge Hlophe.
All right, let's leave it there for this evening. Thank you for your time and sharing of your insights and thoughts around the leadership changes we've seen in the MK party this evening. That is Professor Sipho Siepe there weighing in on that media briefing that took place about an hour ago, thereabouts, by the MK party.